Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm ready to do my first impressions on the Burchtree Secant. This knife is a Burchtree design. He had these made. They're his kind of production run, if you will, made by Reate Knives. So I don't know how many custom Secants Burchtree has made. All I know is that I have grown to like Burchtree blades quite a bit ever since I got the Danger Pickle, the Spyderco bombshell, which I coined the term Danger Pickle for. Kind of made me feel like I'm friends with the guy. We haven't actually talked all that much, just here and there in DMs, but he was really, really cool and made me the Flying Saucer bottle opener with Danger Pickle gang on it, and so I've really liked him as a maker. Since opening this up yesterday, I actually listened to 2 episodes of the Mark of the Maker podcast because it had been so long since I had listened to that podcast. Great podcast, by the way. And yeah, really cool dude. I like Michael Birch. He's a cool dude. So this is his newest kind of production knife, if you will. He has done a couple of knives with Spyderco at this point, the Danger Pickle being the most recent one, and then this he had made by Reate. So I really, really like the Reate knives that are from US designers. I've handled other Reate knives that are just part of their catalog, if you will, right? Like the K2 was really, really nice. I've had the Jack 2.0 Integral, which was quirky but very well made, and they do some really cool stuff over there. But I was trying to explain this to some friends of mine who've also gotten these recently, or are hunting for them now because they've started to hear how good they are. All of the most special knives that I've handled from Reate, for me, based on my perception, have been the ones that come from like US designers, because I feel like Reate is just really good at nailing designs that I would like otherwise, but Reate puts so many good features into these knives, and it just feels like you're getting so much value into a design that you like from a designer who I'm a fan of, that like his customs of this knife can't be cheap. They're outside of my price range for sure. So to get a knife this nice, that is his design, that he brought in, he had made, like it still feels good to me. So I like that. I feel like this knife has a soul. It still gets part of Michael Birch in it, even though Reate is the one building it, if that makes any sense at all. But this knife is kind of wild. It's got some really interesting kind of quirky design aspects to it and features, and I really am finding that I'm glad I picked one up. I like it a lot. The second that I saw months and months ago that he was going to be doing these, it could have looked like anything, and I probably would have been excited for it and planned on getting one, because I love the Danger Pickle so much. Like, I genuinely, not just because like that name caught on and that's a whole thing, sure, like that's, if you watch my review I even talk about that, but the knife itself is just kind of quirky in a fun way, and it's different, but it's still usable, and I like carrying it, and there's like a lot of just like, I enjoy that knife, and so it made me want to try more of his knives. And so I saw he's doing another production run, this time with Reate, and it's a different model. Like, I got excited. And so the fact that not only do I think I was justified in being excited because I found a maker who I like, who is doing another production run, but this knife is just, it's exceeding my expectations. I opened this yesterday. I opened it kind of early in the afternoon. I carried it all day, and then I was up late editing videos and stuff, and while I was doing that, I was playing with it the whole time. And then all morning, I've been carrying it. I carried it up here on my hike today. This isn't a typical, like, in my pocket for a hike kind of knife, just based on the construction and all that, but I just couldn't bear to not carry it today. I was really, really excited about it. So I've carried it for a day, at least, because it's been over 24 hours, and I've used it a little bit so far. I feel like I'm ready to do my first impressions because I've been so excited. I've just been like soaking it in. So let's talk construction real quick, and then we'll go over kind of where I'm at coming into it. So we have a blade steel of M390. You'll see on this side we've got the Burchtree Blades logo. On this side, all that you see is a little M390 right there. Hopefully it's focusing for you. It's a really nice hollow grind for its primary bevel. We've got a swedge up here coming to the tip. We've got a little bit of kind of a harpoon thing going on, a little bit of jimping, which isn't very aggressive. We'll talk about that some more, I'm sure. And then in terms of the handle construction, it's a bolster lock. So you'll see we've got a micarta scale covering 3/4 of the handle, and then we've got a titanium bolster up here, and you can see that it's really, the way a bolster lock works is it's basically a frame lock, but it's got this scale set up on top of it. On the lock side, you'll see bolster lock means it covers most of the lock, but not all of it. So up here at the bolster, we can see that kind of frame lock portion exposed. I like that. I think it looks really good. We have an over travel stop in there with a hardened insert for the lockup, and then we have a titanium pocket clip, which I think looks really good. I prefer deep carry clips. Another thing we'll talk about, as I always do, but yeah, I think it looks really, really nice. So this one is the OD Green micarta. They were also available in natural micarta and in carbon fiber. I was torn. All three, I think, frankly, looked really, really good. I just, like, last week got my Urban EDC Supply Vox F5.5 in natural micarta, so I felt like getting 2 natural micarta knives in a row. It seemed like a little much, plus I love OD micarta. I was tempted on the carbon fiber. It was really almost 50-50 between that and this, because I think the carbon looks really classy on this knife. But now that I have it in hand, I'm glad that I went with the OD micarta. It just looks great on here. I feel like it fits this knife really well, and kind of the lines of it, the design of it, to have that element to it, it's right up my alley. So I think it looks great. The only material thing I guess I didn't mention was backspacer, which is also full titanium. Internally, we don't have any weight relief or anything, but frankly, there wouldn't be much depth to accomplish that because the micarta does take up a good part of the titanium. So you'll see, if you look here, come on, the titanium really isn't all that thick where the scales are. So it would be hard to do much internal milling in there anyways. Yeah, so let's talk about ergos, carry, cutting, action, all that fun stuff. Ergonomically, I am very pleasantly surprised with this knife. Looking at it in photos, it made me a little bit worried, if I'm being totally honest. Not like that scared, because I know, I was confident that he wasn't going to put out a knife that like was ergonomically bad, but I just worried that like maybe from my hands it wasn't going to fit quite as well as it could have. I get 3 fingers here in this groove. I wear medium gloves, but my fingers aren't exactly very thin. I fill out the gloves well. But yeah, so I get 3 fingers right in here, and then my pinky lands up on there. That's in the primary grip. But then you'll see there's also this big flat spot right up here. So I can put my 3 fingers in here now, put my pointer finger up on this flat spot, and then I put my thumb right here in this little harpoon spot, and I get an awesome, really indexed, very controlled sensation of this blade right here. And it's not a huge knife. I feel like some people look at this and they think it's really big. It's not. It's like Para 3 sized, roughly. I mean, it's probably heavier and a little bit, maybe thicker, maybe not even. But it's not that big. You can look up the specs, I'm sure. It's not a huge knife. And so if you look at it in my hand, like this thing is not huge. I love that I've got those 2 grip options and that either one works. This flat I find is just super functional as kind of a forward choil, if you will, a forward flat. And it does put my thumb right where it feels really good there. If I'm back here, this jimping is super comfortable, and I can reach forward and get that harpoon still. So it's just, I've got nice options all over. Draw cut feels good as well. Hammer grip, saber grip, all good. Reverse grip feels exceptional because I get this cool, like, now the thick spot is right where my pointer finger is, so I'm getting like a good amount to grab on here. These fingers back here are kind of like locking in, and then I've got this awesome spot for the pad of my thumb. This feels really good in a reverse grip, like very intuitive and natural in that way. Reverse grip draw cut, not as much, but it's doable. So yeah, it's ergonomically, I'm very pleasantly surprised with how good this knife is ergonomically for me. Because if I had to, like I said, I was worried it was going to not quite be right for my hands because there's a lot of shape going on here. But then I was also worried that like it was just going to be like, yeah, I mean, that spot kind of gets me a little, but I forgive it. And I don't find that I'm finding any hot spots at all or anything that's like, it all just feels intuitive. Way more than I thought it would looking at this handle shape. So I like that. Obviously every hand is different. Some people might find that for them it does poke them and prod them in weird spots. For me it doesn't. So that's all good. Let's talk about carry. Carrying this knife so far, you can see we've got this titanium clip. It's a milled clip, stops right about there, so you get that much sticking out of your pocket. Not an insane amount. I'd rather have none sticking out of my pocket. I prefer deep carry. But the clip does give me a good spot to hold on to for deploying the knife. We'll talk about action after this, but it's a good kind of catch point. It's a good spot to hold on to when you're playing with it. And then in hand, it's not hot spotty at all. It doesn't poke me, it doesn't prod me. It feels good in any of the grips that I mentioned. I can feel that it's there. It kind of like adds like a thickness or a dimension to the knife without stabbing me. And I was a little worried about that too, because you look at the kind of tip of this clip right up there, and it looks like it could maybe be a little bit pokey. And if I run my finger against it, it's slightly pokey, like a little more than I would like, but I don't feel it in hand. And having this knife in pocket, I haven't found yet that I've like brushed up against it and it's like hurt my hand as it's going by it or anything. Like, it feels pretty good. So yeah, carry, it's fairly slim. I feel like Burchtree Blades knives in general are a little bit like chunky, and this still feels kind of chunky, so maybe I'm feeling like it's a little thin because it feels to me a little thinner than like the Danger Pickle does, but I don't even know that it is actually much thinner. It's probably half-inch thick handle. Like it's a real handle, so it carries well though. Everything about it is just super chamfered. If you look at all the edges, all of them, everywhere, they're just really well rounded, and it's just comfortable in pocket. There's no flipper tab or anything, obviously, because we're on thumb studs, and it's just a nice profile in pocket. It's fairly short this way too, because it's not a long knife, and so I like it. I carried it up here as my primary. I carried it part of the day yesterday as a secondary, and then I kind of finished out the day with it as my primary. It moved pockets, and it's worked in either position, which is another thing I like. I dig it when I can carry a knife as a secondary or as a primary, because it doubles the odds, if I like the knife, that it's going to be able to make it into my pocket. So yeah, it carries well. Is it a carry dream? No, it's not super lightweight. It's not super slim and skinny, but it's comfortable, and I haven't minded it one bit. Alright, so let's talk action next. Action on this guy is bananas. It's really, really good. Recently I've been on a bit of a Reate built knives kick. I've had like the Chavez, and I've had some Pina knives, and I've had a few that were Reate built. And so both the Chavez 229, which is a Reate built knife, and the Pina Mula are both Reate built knives with thumb studs. This one has the best action of the three that I just mentioned, and the Mula has a phenomenal action. The Chavez has a phenomenal action. This one is just, for my preferences, better. The detent isn't as stiff as the Chavez. These thumb studs are much more like reachable and usable than either the Chavez or the Pina for me, in terms of like getting to them with my thumb. It's just the angle, the positioning, something about it is just perfect for me. The weight of this detent, or like the amount of pressure it takes to get it to break, it's just like, if I go as softly as I can, it's still deploying all the way. And when I just do it like I normally would, when I'm not even thinking about it, it feels almost like an auto. It's just so freaking good. These bearings are phenomenal. The detent is just perfect. I can middle finger flick it super easily, and it's fun to do. As thumb stud knives go, this might be my new favorite thumb stud knife action. Probably. We'll see by the end of the review. But yeah, I really like fidgeting with this knife, and I've been doing it a ton. And one thing that I find can sometimes be a little bit of a bummer about thumb studs or flipper tabs is when I play with the same one over and over and over for like hours, which I do sometimes. Like literally last night, editing videos, having them upload, all that computer stuff. I've got a movie on the TV, and while that's uploading, while the movie's playing, I'm just sitting there doing this over and over and over. When I've done that with some flippers or some thumb studs, I get like blisters and fatigue, and it's like just kind of a bummer. This one, that hasn't happened yet. I think it's just the way that the detent is just the right like toughness, and the thumb studs are so good for my thumb to actually use. I really, really like it a lot. That was close. I almost just cut myself. Anyway, so action is phenomenal. Did I mention it also is stupid drop shutty? It's like really, really good. I think it helps that it's got this nice kind of thicker blade on it, and because it's a bolster lock, you're not inherently putting any pressure on the lock bar as it's coming down when you're holding on to the knife. It's just like this nice controlled fall. It's not because the blade has any play. In fact, it is rock solid in all directions. It's just a good, genuinely fantastic action. Yeah, which I mean, at a certain point, it better be. This was a $350, $360 knife. I got it direct from Burchtree Blades on his drop. I know a couple of retailers had them as well. I don't know at the point where I'm filming if anyone has any left, but this is not an inexpensive knife. And Reate is already capable of building really, really nice things. So for it to be the price point that it was, the action should be this good, but oh boy is it. It is really, really good. So, action is good, carry's pretty good. Carry's not a dream, but carry's pretty good, and ergos are very good. Let's talk cutting performance. So, this blade is pretty freaking wild. You've got a little bit of recurve here in this kind of primary portion of the grind, right? And then you've got this tanto tip. It's not a compound tanto, so it's the same hollow grind all the way through, which is probably, I think, better for the size and kind of parameters of this knife, but it works. So this recurve is very minor. I'm not afraid of sharpening a recurve this minute. I think it'll probably be fine. And I like that you've got kind of a little bit of a secondary tip down here, so if you are dragging that through tape or something, that'll help a little bit. And then you've got a nice tip up here. I love this swedge and the way the swedge starts so high up here, like right where the harpoon is, right? And then it comes all the way to the tip, almost to like a spear point. Like, it's really a cool looking tip, and I don't know, it carries a good amount of material out to it. It's not a fragile tip, but it just seems like it's going to be phenomenal at piercing. I haven't really done much piercing with it yet. Like I said, I've opened some packages so far, and I haven't done any zip ties or anything, but I feel like the shape of this tip, I'm going to have a pretty easy time getting into zip ties when I do try it. We'll see. Time will tell. But for like opening packages, it did great. In fact, I stabbed the cardboard as well just to feel kind of how that tip did. And I mean, most knives will stab cardboard pretty easily, but it felt cool. I liked it. So yeah, so far cutting performance seems really good. I've got a lot more cutting to do with it before I can really speak to that on a bigger level, but I'm liking it quite a bit. So all things considered, this knife is freaking sweet. It's really, really good, and there's certainly a part of me that like had high expectations for this knife. And there's a part of me that really likes Burchtree Blades because the only other knife of his that I own is one that I love. But sometimes those high expectations can be a little bit dangerous too. Like, just because I like one Burchtree Blades knife didn't mean that inherently I'm going to like all of his knives. And because I expected this to be so good, if it had been anything less than that, I feel like I'd have been kind of disappointed. But I almost feel like it's more than I expected it to be. This action is better than I anticipated it being. These ergos are better than I anticipated them being. Like, I think rationally my mind wasn't like, this is going to be a perfect knife. But emotionally, I was just really, really hyped for it. And so for it to get here and to rationally be this good, and for me to feel like my own like self-hype was justified, it's a really cool thing. I like it a lot, and I'm really, really glad that I got one. I was going to get one when he dropped the first few. I talked about this in my unboxing, but it was like right around Christmas time. I just bought so many knives. I shouldn't have even bought it this time. Like, I put it on a credit card like an idiot. I should have. I was not responsible about this purchase, right? But I couldn't bear not getting one, and it was the last drop. Anyways, part of me wishes I had gotten one right off the bat. I put it on a credit card in the end anyways, because I just missed out on some time with this knife. I'd already have had this for a while if I had gotten it early in December when he dropped the first wave of them. But I don't know whether he's going to do more of these. I feel like just as easily he could or he couldn't. Like, maybe he'll do more runs with different materials. Maybe he'll do more runs just like these. Maybe he'll never do them again. I do not know. I'd be curious to find out. So if someone does know, let me know. But I also don't get the vibe that he did all that many of them, because the sizes of the drops when he was doing them himself didn't seem very big. And then the retailers that got him, I can't imagine they got like an insane amount of these. It's kind of a niche knife. But I feel like it's kind of come onto the scene as a bit of a sleeper, and I feel like it's going to become fairly sought after, because not only am I confident that I like it, obviously, I've been raving about it this whole video, but I have a couple of friends that have gotten them now, 3 in particular who I talk to fairly often. One of them, Kevin, left EDC. Another one, Screamin' Pirate on Instagram. He's a cool dude. And then my buddy MB Wild. Each of the 3 of them have these. I think MB Wild and Screamin' Pirate both have them in this same configuration with the micarta. And then Kevin got one in carbon fiber. And all of them, every single one of them is like, dude, this is a fantastic knife. Like, very high on their favorite knives list right off the bat. It's that good. And so it's not just me who's really into it. And so I imagine these may become somewhat hard to get your hands on, just because I don't think there were all that many. But I don't want to like put too much of that out there, because obviously I can't predict what the market is going to do or what everybody is going to feel about a thing, or I don't know. I don't want to necessarily like play with that, right? But I think if you're interested in one of these and you see one now, my advice would probably be to get one sooner rather than later, because I just don't think there are that many, and I think they're going to be fairly sought after when more and more people realize what they are. Anyway, this has been the Burchtree Secant. I think I'm saying that right. I should probably like figure out the actual pronunciation, but I think that's it. Anyways, it is a phenomenal knife, and there will be a full review soon once I've carried and used it quite a bit more. I imagine it's probably going to be pretty positive based on the way that I'm feeling about this knife so far, and I've really been trying to feel it out. But I'm going to honor the process. I'm going to give it the whole week at least, and I'm going to carry it and use it quite a bit, and then I'll talk about it some more then. So look out for that video if you're interested, and anyways, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.